there are a lot of things happening in wrestling. We do have to get to questions. But the biggest story, it happened the other day, it happened on New Year's Eve, was, I guess it started with an article, and I have it here, and I think the headline is important, because it I think it triggered things. But there's an article here related to the release of Big Swole from AEW. Now, you may remember, we just covered it maybe a month and a half ago on...
We were laughing about how amicable...
Yeah.
The statement was, we've mutually agreed and decided that I shouldn't do this anymore here, and type of thing, instead of, we wish you all the best of your future endeavors, and she's done. But it didn't last. The harmony did not last between old Big Swole and old Tony Khan, did it?
Well, as part of her statement, I think we should say this on the air to put everything in the proper context. She put out a statement on November 30th, detailing her not being with AEW anymore, and it says here, so I took my leap, and after speaking with TK, Tony Khan, and AEW higher officials, we've decided not to renew my contract with All Elite Wrestling. This was a hard decision, but a needed one. I am grateful for their understanding and that we could mutually come to this agreement. She then goes on to talk about it's bittersweet, she enjoyed her time there, but like you said, an amicable statement. We've never seen a wrestler leave a company with a nicer statement than that.
It was almost like they were throwing her a parade on the way out the door.
So on New Year's Eve, so that was November 30th. On New Year's Eve, an article was tweeted out from Fightful.com by Jeremy Lambert, and the headline, and I think because the headline was the thing that got out there, this is the first thing we kind of need to dissect. Big Swole says lack of diversity and structure led to her leaving AEW. Now, I think we should make a couple of notes here. One, whatever we say about Big Swole per se does not necessarily mean it reflects on any lack of diversity or lack of structure in AEW. There are things that could be mutually exclusive here.
Well, I must admit, I think that statement sounds mutually exclusive because there's diversity all over the place in AEW. It's the most diverse, they pride themselves on their diversity, but as far as structure, boy, howdy, that's like asking for structure from the fucking local daycare clinic, isn't it? Are those clinics or centers? Daycare center. Or they could possibly do some clinical work as well while the kids are there.
And by the way, I should say not mutually exclusive as opposed to mutually exclusive.
Yeah, whatever. I think everybody understood what you were saying.
But that's the thing. AEW can have issues with lack of structure, and those are legitimate, and lack of diversity, and that's something that's quite frankly probably a conversation two white guys shouldn't be speaking about because it's just about what we think about it.
But let's get to the meat of the matter. The one person, and this is again, this is what tickled me about it. The one person that has been critical of AEW from within, because normally everybody's happy and almost nobody's been released, and the ones that have been, the few brought it on themselves, the Jimmy Havocks of the world, etc. But the one person that ends up being critical is not a major superstar, is not one of the up-and-comers, souping stars, up-and-coming superstars, is not an extremely talented individual. It's possibly, potentially, and imagine how much territory this takes in, the worst wrestler that they put on television over the past year is the one now that has the issues.
Or maybe 2 years. I don't even know if she's been on TV in the last year.
Well, now remember the first year there was a lot of Jelly Nutella and Sunny Kiss and all that other kind of stuff. So let's be, but wait a minute, the tooth and nail match, that was 2 years ago. So there you go. The point is, of all the people that could speak up about anything related to a wrestling company, this ain't one of them. And then Tony Khan does himself no favors by launching into a diatribe / knock / promotion for their TV show all in the same tweet.
I have that tweet here. And again, this is why I said the headline was important. Tony Khan retweeted the article with the headline when he responded to it. And I could understand him seeing that and going, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this? The retweet says, the top 2 AEW execs are Brown, me, and Mega, with 2 exclamation points. Jade, Bowens, Caster, Dante, Nyla, Isaiah, and Mark Quinn all won on TV this month. The TBS title tournament has been very diverse. I let Swole's contract expire as I felt her wrestling wasn't good enough.
Oh!
Hashtag AEW Rampage, street fight tonight!
So he responds with a defense, then goes to the jugular, because let's face it, she was a shits and everybody knows it as a wrestler, and then plugs his television show that night, all in the same tweet. I hope nobody was shining a flashlight on the wall when Tony was doing that, or he would have misspelled something, because his attention flits from one thing to another. But besides the fact that whether 2 white guys need to have the conversation about diversity or not, I think they've adequately defended themselves on diversity. But what I was interested in the body of her article was the comments she made about the structure. Well, Kenny's wrapped up in his own stuff, so the girls only get a few minutes on TV. Again, coming from Britt Baker or Thunder Rosa or Serena Deeb, that should be valid criticism, but coming from the person who shouldn't have ever been on television as many times as she was, it tends to lose some of its steam. But if she thinks that, then do the other girls think that? Because let's face it, I mean, we've said this from the start. They are the ones who said that Kenny Olivier will be in charge of the women's division because of his sharp eye for talent, bringing in every underfed outlaw talent, and I use that term in quotation marks, from Japan at the expense of anybody that could possibly get over. But it just, again, it doesn't do any good for the people who have valid criticisms to make when a person who has no business making any criticisms about the wrestling business are the ones to make them.
And also with Tony Khan, I don't know if "look at all my black friends" was a good argument.
Well, but in all honesty, the problem basically is that this girl was not a good wrestler and got more chances to be not a good wrestler than she should have got. And then comes out and says, well, it's not diverse enough and there's no structure. Like that would have made it, unless they started a wrestling training program. Oh, they've got one. I guess it was available to her. Maybe she didn't go to it. I'm not saying the Nightmare Factory could, perpetrate miracles. But again, there's a lot of, as Tony said, black and brown and all the other kind of color people in the rainbow there. And almost nobody's been released. And it's not like it's new news that their women's division has been booked like you fucking took everybody's name, wrote it down on a piece of paper and shoved it into a fucking blender. But that wouldn't have made Big Swole a good wrestler if it hadn't. So this is a heel program, I think. You got her complaining because she's complaining, and you got him going off the fucking deep end on Twitter.
This is part of
now with Leo Rush, by the way.
Well,
Leo jumped in.
He, of course, jumped in, but I just want to say, again, the issue is whether or not there are diversity and structure issues there. That's one thing. But you have to separate that from the fact that anyone who's been watching that show with a critical eye from the very beginning knows that Big Swole is one of the people, and there are several, who weren't ready for national TV in any way. If you can't go in the ring and have a match without fucking up multiple things, you're not ready for national TV. And it was that. It was the stuff at ringside. There were no promos that stood out. I mean, respectfully, not everyone is set out for this. But there were a lot of people that were signed early on, and they shouldn't have been given that much time on TV. I mean, that was really an issue was how much time some people who shouldn't have ever been on TV were given TV time. But it doesn't mean there aren't legitimate issues, and it doesn't mean minority talent with brown skin, as Tony Khan put it, anyone who is Latino or black, it doesn't mean they don't have genuine feelings there. Now, we did see several people jump in to defend Tony Khan. Powerhouse Hobbs, a few other people. I saw Britt Baker did, and then she got attacked by people for defending Tony Khan.
And wait a minute, did you think last year anybody would be attacking anybody for defending Tony Khan?
And quite frankly, none of this should have been on Twitter. Tony should have let that article go and just say...
Can you see Vince McMahon having that response?
Not the big Swole. Not the big Swole.
I can see Vince McMahon even before he'd lost his mind going, big what? Who? Where?
Big hole? Didn't she work here? My hole? What was
my
name?
hole?
But the Lio Rush jumped in. And I don't have these tweets in front of me, but there were several that were to the tune of, and if I get them wrong, I apologize, I'm not happy with this. Nope. None of this is good. Apologize, Tony Khan.
Yes, that's what, no, he wrote back, Tony, he didn't say apologize, Tony Khan, he just wrote back, apologize now. Like he's already, how many bosses has he had over the last 2 years that he's told to do things? And they've responded with, how about just fucking leave? And is the clock ticking, the countdown clock on his next retirement from wrestling?
Well, it sounds like they've made peace. Because Lio Rush put out a statement yesterday, January 1st, 2022, 3:58 p.m. I want this to be clear. I do not consider this to be a diversity issue. And I at no point have thought or said that AEW or Tony is racist. We can all clearly see that wrestling as a whole and the AEW roster is perpetually diverse. The issue at hand was a racial insensitivity issue. Having spoken to Tony and Mega, we have discussed the endeavors to further understand the struggles of the Black community. I am grateful to be able to understand more about Tony and Mega's own ethnic backgrounds and glad that they are actively seeking input from an African American perspective. I am proud to work for a boss and company that try to make these strides in social equality. I look forward to working with Tony to keep making steps towards positive change. I pray that 2022 is a year of positive change in all aspects. Happy New Year, and God bless. Hashtag be the change.
Oh my God. So if this was the WWF, I would say somebody told him, shut the fuck up and mind your own business. And he put that out. But since it's AEW, I bet you that Tony and Mega did sit down with him and have just a wonderful conversation where everybody was nice.
On the phone, yeah.
On the phone or whatever. And now he's looking forward to closely working with. Here's the thing. Again, if you're running a fucking business and one of the employees has an issue with the boss, then publicly you side with the ex-employee while you're still a current employee rather than the boss. And then several days later, everything with you and the boss is all good. Somebody talked you off the fucking ledge. But again, Lio Rush, mind your P's and Q's. Nobody cares what the guy in the mailroom thinks about the way that the fucking board meeting is being run. But he's always got an opinion about somebody else's business. He can have an opinion about his own business, but he's like Rebby Hardy. He just always has to chime in about other people's business too. Apparently he likes to be heard.
My thing too is, I do think it's a good thing for Tony and Mega and anyone else in AEW's executive suite, hierarchy, I don't know what you want to say. I think it is good for them to have discussions with African-American talent, Latino talent, hey, Jewish talent. We're going to talk about minorities here. Talk to all the talent. Try to get an understanding of their perspective and everything. However, I think that's a positive. However, if I had some employee on Twitter publicly yelling at me to apologize, he'd be gone in 2 seconds. He works there. He's not an executive.
Well, but hold on. If it was Bryan Danielson or CM Punk, or
they would have been on the phone calling me.
Obviously they wouldn't have done that to begin with. But what the point I'm trying to make is, if you're shooting a movie, the director and the producer are taking care of the fucking stars of the movie. The extras might not like the way the movie's going, and it don't matter because they can be replaced. And or any business, whatever, and I'm not talking about any particular color of your employees. I'm talking about your employees, the hierarchy. You need your top guys. You need your main events. You need your movie stars. If you got the Rolling Stones, you need Mick and Keith, whatever. But the guitar tech, if he makes too much noise, you might just need to get a new guitar tech. And some people in this modern era of wrestling need to understand that you ain't going to change shit until you get into a spot where they can't do without you. And those are few and far between, especially these days. So otherwise, if you ain't ready to fucking pack your bags and go home, shut the fuck up. Nobody gives a shit. And that's unfortunately the modern generation of wrestlers, along with the modern generation, have been told that they should not have their feelings hurt, or they should all be able to participate, and everybody should have a voice, and everybody's, equal in this endeavor and all this stuff, and we're all a team together. No, it's the same as it's always been. If you're a movie star, you're better than the extra. If you're fucking Super Bowl champions, it doesn't matter what the water boy on the team thinks about how it's being run. In any endeavor or field of entertainment or profession, good God, not everybody gets to fucking say how this shit's gonna go, and all you do is get heat on yourself when you fire up with these fucking opinions. And that's coming from an expert. But I generally had one of two things: either the status in the particular position to make those statements, or the car keys in my pocket and the ability to get into it and drive home if those statements were not well received. If you don't have one of those two things, shut the fuck up, especially in the wrestling business.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm thinking it's probably the end of Big Swole, just because she never improved. Again, there are two issues here. Any issues with the structure and the diversity in the executive suite, or whatever it is, over in AEW. That's one issue. But Tony made a mistake conflating all those things together in one tweet, including the promotion for the fucking show.
Yeah, because he's got way too much energy. Who was the guy we used to call Hippity Hop in the old WFIA conventions? There was a guy from up your neck of the woods, up in New York. I remember his name now, but he might still be listening. He was a nice fella.
Paul Frank?
But he was, no.
Oh. Kenny Levitt?
He had so much, shut up now. He had so much energy and did go on verbally that everybody called him Hippity Hop. But he was a nice fellow, but he had a lot of energy.
Did you meet Captain Lenny? Did you ever meet
Captain Lenny Dauber? Are you kidding? Of course.
All right. Well, that answers that question. Asked and answered.
And for all the people who remember Captain Lenny Dauber after these past 40 years, we send him a shout out wherever he may be.
And we will stay on top of the story with AEW and diversity in the weeks ahead. And of course, we'll be reporting on it right here on Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru. But Jim,
and also the whereabouts of Captain Lenny Dauber.
Whereabouts of Captain Lenny? He had a wrestling hotline in the 70s. It was advertised in the various fan bulletins and stuff, the Captain Lenny Wrestling Hotline. It was his home number. He would basically just trap people. They would call him up and then they couldn't get off the phone. But let's get
It didn't cost you any money. You just had to talk to him.
You just had to talk to him. That was the biggest issue there.